Hey, what's up, guys? Teach Me Grappling. Tonight, I'm not going to be showing you guys any technique, but I wanted to talk a little bit about this big match that just happened with Pat Downey and Gordon Ryan. So, for those of you guys that didn't know, a couple days ago, I guess there was a match with Gordon Ryan and Pat Downey. Now, who are these guys? For those of you guys that are subscribe to my channel, you probably already know who Gordon Ryan is. Right now, he's considered like the greatest grappler on the planet. He's a big guy, but he's also very technical and he's hard to deal with. So he's been able to submit most people. He won Abu Dhabi both in his division and the absolute. So he has lost before, but for all intents and purposes, he's basically the best in the world. Pat Downey is America's right now number one wrestler because our number one wrestler, Dave Taylor, is injured. So Pat Downey is basically kind of like second in the U.S. So he will represent the United States on the world level. He's a very high-level wrestler. He had a match with Nicky Rodriguez not that long ago over at Who's Number One. So we got a great freestyle wrestler versus a grappler, and they had a match that they did a ADCC rules match, and then they also did a freestyle rules match for freestyle wrestling. So I know that Gordon Ryan has been talking a lot about he wants to prove that like the stand-up grappling that happens in whether you want to call it Jiu-jitsu or submission grappling, whatever. Basically, this new age grappling that we're doing, or at least what he's trying to say that he's doing. So I guess I shouldn't take credit for him, but it's different, and he says it's better than freestyle wrestling or just wrestling in general. I know what he's trying to say, but anyway, he wants to wrestle with Pat Downey, and he claimed he could maybe even beat Pat Downey, or he did say he would beat him. So anyway, getting to the point, they had a grappling match. They did that grappling match first. Now, I have not seen the whole match, so I've seen just the YouTube clips that you guys can watch on YouTube. So just look it up, Pat Downey versus Gordon Ryan. You guys can watch the small little YouTube clips. So maybe, I thought about this and I was like, maybe I should watch the whole match before I comment. But then I thought, you know what? Call me lazy, whatever. I feel like I know what I'm talking about and I can discuss this. So even though I didn't watch the whole match, I have a pretty good feeling that I know most of what happened just based on the little clips and the back and forth that I read online. So I definitely on Twitter, these two guys have been going at it. It's kind of a hot topic right now. So here's the thing. They had a grappling match. I guess it went 20 minutes. At the end, Gordon Ryan gets on Pat Downey's back. And as he's trying to stand up, he's super sweaty and tired. He sounds totally gassed out, Pat Downey does. And Gordon Ryan puts on a half Nelson, a power half Nelson, or power Nelson, and basically Pat Downey taps. Maybe he hurt his shoulder, maybe he was just fatigued, I don't know. Gordon Ryan holds him a little bit longer, says, hey man, it's a power half Nelson. It's not, a power half is not a submission. He didn't want it to end. So anyway, Gordon Ryan wins. Like anybody wouldn't have thought that. Of course he's going to win the grappling match. So anyway, then I guess they rest. I don't know how long they rested, but they rest. And then they have a freestyle match, and then Pat Downey, techs him, tech fall, which is like a 10-point lead in freestyle. He techs him in 20 seconds of actual wrestling. He ends up getting like an elbow pass and gets to a body lock, and he ends up throwing Gordon for 4. The match gets stood back up because they kind of go out of bounds. He gets a quick push out. Again, as he's attacking, makes it 5-0, and then after that, another elbow pass, and he ends up from the go behind. He ends up gut wrenching him 3 times, scoring 2-2-2, making the match 11-0 and getting the tech fall in just like I said, like maybe 20 seconds of wrestling. So, Pat Downey then is like shoving it back. He was kind of pissed, I'm sure, of Gordon, the way he was talking and how he treated him, I guess, in the grappling match. So then he rubs it back in Gordon's face, says, "Don't you ever, think you can wrestle." Pat Downey kind of talking about himself in the third person. But, and then now there's this big internet war. You got wrestlers on one side, you got jiu-jitsu guys on the other, and they're just going at it back and forth. Myself, now, for those of you guys that know me, you guys already know I'm a wrestler. I'm a jiu-jitsu black belt. I've been around a long time, and I do both sports consistently. Like, this is all I do. It's my life. I spend my life doing both of these sports, and along with MMA. And so I think I can speak on this. So there's a lot of wrestlers that have gotten into jiu-jitsu, but I will not say there is not a lot of wrestlers like me that consistently do both. Most guys that wrestlers move over to jiu-jitsu, they usually stop wrestling. It's usually like their wrestling career was in high school and college, and then they become jiu-jitsu guys. Rarely do jiu-jitsu guys go over to wrestling unless they're kids or high school kids. So there's not a lot of guys that actually do both and consistently do both. So I think I can speak on this, and I would like to just give you guys my opinion on this matter. And here it is. So the first thing, they're totally different sports, guys. So of course the wrestler's going to win the wrestling match and the grappler's going to win the grappling match. That, it doesn't take a genius to know that that was going to happen. Now, here's the deal. Let's just get into it. What do people want to know? They want to know which one's better. This is that argument. What's better, jiu-jitsu or wrestling? And of course, if you talk to a jiu-jitsu guy, he's going to say probably jiu-jitsu. And you talk to a wrestler, they're going to say it's wrestling. And they're going to cite their sources. They're going to tell you why one is better than the other. And, a lot of times they're very biased. Wrestlers are biased. Wrestling, I'm not saying that all wrestlers are disrespectful, and I'm not saying all jiu-jitsu guys are disrespectful. But so when I speak about the camps of each, I'm just being honest. Like, there's guys in the camp on the jiu-jitsu side, they're going to say one thing, and the wrestling side, they're going to say their thing. Now, here's the deal. Wrestlers think jiu-jitsu guys are wimps. This is what wrestlers think. They think jiu-jitsu guys are wimps because they pull guard and they butt scoot. They can't do takedowns. They don't have the best of balance. They aren't as tough as wrestlers. This is like always the argument. Okay? Now, what do jiu-jitsu guys think of wrestlers? Well, jiu-jitsu guys think that wrestlers are dumb. They think that they're all strength and they're not technical enough. They think they're just brutes and they can't be technical. They have no clue about the understanding of submission holds, which makes jiu-jitsu guys think of wrestlers as low. They're like, bro, you don't even know how to defend yourself. Like, you'll get choked out. And the wrestlers are like, dude, do you know that I could totally slam you on concrete and you wouldn't know what to do? You would just be butt scooting. I would never let you take me down. So these are the arguments. And it goes on and on and on. And I've been listening to these arguments since I started in the 90s. And, they still exist. They still exist to this day. Guys, they're two different sports. Okay? Two totally different sports. They're both great in their own regard. Okay? If boxing was arguing with a kickboxing guy, like the world's best boxer versus world's best kickboxer, okay, there would be arguments there. They could fight and maybe it'll go one way, maybe it'll go the other, but there's always going to be arguments. Now, wrestling and jiu-jitsu, when it comes to mixed martial arts, the wrestlers have kind of won that little fight, that little battle. But what the jiu-jitsu guys always reply with, which is a great argument, is that wrestling doesn't win in MMA, guys. It doesn't. It's wrestling combined with the knowledge of jiu-jitsu. It's not straight wrestling. Everyone points out that, John Jones, Daniel Cormier, it doesn't matter. Go to Mighty Mouse, Frankie Edgar, Matt Hughes. Doesn't matter. Like anywhere in there, they're all like wrestlers. Or Habib Nurmagomedov, they're wrestlers. Tyrone Woodley, right now it's Kamaru Usman, wrestlers. But what they forget is that these wrestlers have learned jiu-jitsu. And they would not be where they are without jiu-jitsu either. But that's no argument to say that jiu-jitsu is better than wrestling. That's not what I'm saying. But let's be honest. I think that what makes the best MMA fighter is the wrestler who learns jiu-jitsu. I think that cannot be argued with. There could be a jiu-jitsu guy out there that does really good with just his jiu-jitsu, but they all work on their wrestling, and it's a big, important part of the fight game. Now, in my opinion, wrestling without jiu-jitsu is definitely it's not it. You cannot just come in with wrestling. If you learn how to box, punch, and kick, you can do pretty well. But you're going to reach a level really quick. It won't take long either, where you're going to have a fight on the ground. If you don't learn the submission game, you're going to get caught. You're going to get choked out. It is going to happen. So you have to learn jiu-jitsu. Now, again, so much of this. Which one's easier to learn? Which one's harder to learn? A wrestler can learn jiu-jitsu in a couple years and he's just dangerous. Yeah, it's true. Sometimes that happens, especially you take a really high-level wrestler. But a jiu-jitsu guy can't go into wrestling and just learn wrestling and then all of a sudden do well in wrestling. Look, wrestling is a narrower band of grappling. It's smaller. It is boxing to kickboxing. It's more precise. Boxing is more precise when it comes to hands than kickboxing. So if a boxer fights a kickboxer, in kickboxing rules, the kickboxer should win because he should use his kicks and then beat the boxer. But if the kickboxer goes into boxing, he's definitely going to lose to the boxer, more than likely, without the exception of the flukes. But he's going to lose to the boxer, but he's going to look totally outclassed. And this is what you saw with Gordon Ryan and Pat Downey. Of course, Gordon Ryan's going to look totally outclassed in wrestling. It's not, of course, it's going to happen. Plus, with the way that the sports are different, like freestyle wrestling is you expose the guys back to the mat and you score points. Scoring can happen really quick in freestyle. So, anyway, but a boxer who fights a kickboxer can actually last a little while. He should be able to last longer than the kickboxer doing boxing. Now, and this is a general thing, guys. I'm not saying this will happen every single time. It's a narrower band. It's more precise. Anytime you do that, you're going to get these types of results. Now, in the match of the clips I saw, Gordon Ryan wasn't even trying to finish Pat Downey. I'm sure they had rules, much like the Bo Nickal match, where he wasn't allowed to do leg locks. I'm sure Pat Downey didn't want to get heel hooked. And from the clips that I saw, the very short clips, Gordon Ryan wasn't even trying to tap him, guys. He wasn't trying to tap him. He was trying to just probably wrestle him and embarrass him, which is kind of what he did, at least with the way they gave up. He was very exhausted. He tapped to a power half Nelson, which can hurt, but, he put himself there. You don't have to tap to a power half Nelson. Usually, you can just roll over to your back, unless you're trapped on your belly, like in a wrestling match, which is not the position they were in. If it hurt that bad, you just kind of roll with it. But he looked to me like he was very exhausted. So, Gordon Ryan was trying to, under ADCC rules, trying to show that he could get the top position against a wrestler, a very good wrestler. Now, some people argue, well, Gordon Ryan's the best in the world, but Pat Downey's not the best in the world. Guys, it doesn't really matter. It's basically the same. Even if you get a higher level wrestler than Pat Downey, it's not going to be much different. That when that level is like it's not that big of a difference. So don't worry about that. But anyway, in each sport, of course, we expect the specialist of that sport to win. But the argument that Gordon Ryan is trying to make, which is important, and I think it's important, is that grappling is a more free style. It's more free than wrestling. In other words, less limitations. When you do this, it is like MMA to kickboxing. It's more free than kickboxing. It's more free than boxing. MMA is more free than wrestling. More free than Jiu-jitsu. You're allowed to do more things. It makes you better for the fight. Now, some people want to see like, hey, let's let them fight. What would happen? Gordon Ryan wouldn't be able to win because now he can't take Pat Downey down. Pat Downey would just stay on his feet. Well, guys, there's other factors like who's the better striker? We don't even know. But once they get on the ground, at some point it's very likely they could get on the ground in a fight. And now Gordon's going to be going after the legs. He's going to be going after the neck. He's going to be trying to, tap Pat Downey out. And if he doesn't have the skills, it is strict wrestling versus strict jiu-jitsu. The odds are the jiu-jitsu guy's going to win, guys. I'm sorry, wrestlers. I love you guys. I talk smack on both sides all the time. Trust me. So when I talk smack on jiu-jitsu plenty of times, they need to learn takedowns. They got to get better at this, that, whatever. But wrestling is a very narrow band, and it's a sport. You could call it a martial art if you like, but it's a sport. And if you want to call it martial art, I'm cool with it. But they do not have the more free style. It's not the more free style. They they don't have the submissions, which is important. It's really important. So, if there's guillotines allowed, if you can choke someone, it changes the takedown game. It definitely changes it. So, I love wrestling, guys. I started out with wrestling. I love wrestling, but you need to understand, if you guys are wrestlers and you don't know that much about jiu-jitsu, remember, jiu-jitsu is now more, it's more open, dude. It's a jungle. You don't have the rules to make it a wrestling game completely. You're going to have guys doing these dirty tricks like choking you, like arm barring you, trying to break your limbs. And if you don't have the tools to deal with that, it's not going to work. It's not going to help you. But of course, in the confined rules of wrestling, I totally expected Gordon Ryan to get demolished, which is what happened. So that doesn't surprise me at all. So it's really interesting to see all this. I really wish I could watch the whole 20 minutes. Some of you guys that have seen it, maybe I'm wrong about something, maybe whatever. I don't even know how Gordon Ryan ended up getting on top, other than I did see him do a sweep after catching from his guard, catching a leg lock position. He gets the sweep and then goes to his back. I don't know if he took him down at one point, but I guess Gordon Ryan says he took him down at one point. So I didn't see that. I didn't witness it. But, he definitely wore Pat Downey out. And, guys, he was not trying to submit him. So if you guys use the argument of Pat Downey survived 20 minutes, guys, he wasn't trying to submit him. At least the clip that I was watching, he had a wide open neck. He never even tried to choke him. So, there's weaknesses on both sides, guys. We need to come together. It's a beautiful thing that we got to see, a great wrestler go against a great jiu-jitsu guy, and they got to go at it, and they actually did each other's sports. So I think it's awesome. I'm glad both guys did it. I think it was entertaining, and I think we should praise those guys, and hopefully there's more of that stuff. I think it'll be fun. But, they're both great sports. Wrestling's amazing. You guys know I love wrestling. It's what I do. I'm a wrestling coach. It's part of my life, part of my job. But when it comes to the whole fight game, everything, I would prefer to be a wrestler that knows a whole lot of jiu-jitsu. So, and that way you guys can be a hybrid grappler and know a little bit of everything. So, jiu-jitsu guys wrestle. Wrestlers, get outside your comfort zone, learn some jiu-jitsu, and it'll make you guys all better. All right, guys, take it easy. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll talk to you guys next time.